Do you think you're free? Stop. Don't answer right away. Let it echo for a second. Let it sit in the back of your mind, not as a statement, but as a challenge.
You wake up every day, make your coffee, check your phone, reply to emails, attend meetings, laugh at the appropriate times, agree when you're expected to agree, nod when silence feels dangerous. And you call that freedom. Is it? You chose your job. Or did you? You chose your partner. Or did fear choose for you? You live in a city you hate, but you stay because it's safe, because you've convinced yourself that bills, obligations, and the opinions of others are shackles made of silk. They're still shackles. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Nietzsche, let that sink in, the privilege of owning yourself. But most people don't want that privilege. They want comfort. They want applause. They want guarantees. And so they obey, quietly, constantly. You're told to follow the rules. Stay in line. Be good. Get the job, build the family, pay the debt, retire at 65, and die without disturbing the order of things. And if you follow that script perfectly, they'll call you a success. But deep down, something feels off. There's a war inside you. One part craves safety. The other aches for more, for danger, for truth, for something real. You hear it in the silence before sleep. You feel it in the pit of your stomach when you lie to yourself. It whispers when the noise fades. And that whisper, that's you, the real you, the one you've buried under responsibilities, expectations, and fear. Freedom isn't just the absence of chains. It's the presence of self. It's looking in the mirror and recognizing the person staring back, not as a product of your upbringing, culture, or society, but as someone who dared to become. Do you recognize yourself? Or are you just a well-trained actor playing a role you didn't write? Nietzsche didn't promise you comfort. He didn't offer validation. He offered confrontation with the world and with yourself. He knew the truth. Most people don't want to be free. They want to be safe. But safety is a cage when it comes at the cost of your soul. So here's the question again, now with weight, now with fire. Do you think you're free? Or just unsupervised? You walk around with a phone in your hand, GPS in your car, options on your screen, and choices at your fingertips. And someone told you this means you're free. But let's ask the harder question. Who gave you those options? And who benefits when you think you're choosing for yourself? You were born into a framework. Long before you spoke your first word, the world had a name for you, a role for you, and expectations laid out like a prison blueprint disguised as a life plan. The moment you started school, the illusion took root. Obey. Repeat. Don't question. Get good grades. Not because you're learning, but because it keeps you in the system. You think freedom is found in having choices. But when every path is designed by someone else, are you free or are you just playing along? Most people do not really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. Sigmund Freud. Responsibility. That's the price. But what do? We trade it for comfort, for predictability, for social approval. We look around, and when everyone else is complying, we confuse consensus for truth. The greatest prisons are the ones without walls. The ones you don't even notice you're inside of. Your job, your social media, your news feed, your habits, your own mind. Because the illusion isn't just external, it's internal. When you've been conditioned to believe certain things about the world, about what success means, what happiness looks like, what kind of person deserves love, you internalize the script. You repeat it. You defend it. You enslave yourself, all while calling it freedom. A man who does not know he is in chains will never seek to break them. Let's make this personal. Why do you do what you do? Why did you pick your career? Why do you behave the way you do in public? Because you chose it? Or because you're avoiding something? Rejection? Discomfort? The fear of being seen? Here's the brutal truth. Real freedom is terrifying. It means leaving behind the story they gave you. It means uncertainty. It means becoming the author instead of just reading your lines. But there's a cost to not facing this truth. You wake up one day and realize your life doesn't feel like yours, that you've climbed a ladder leaning against the wrong wall, that you've checked every box and still feel empty. The illusion of freedom is the most dangerous kind, because it lulls you into apathy. It convinces you that nothing needs to change, that the problem is you, not the game you're playing. Don't believe it. Break the illusion. Start by asking the questions no one else dares to. What would I do if no one was watching? Who am I when I'm not performing? What have I accepted as true without ever examining it? Look around. The loudest voices are selling distractions. Quick pleasure, cheap validation, manufactured identity. But no one is coming to save you from the fog. This is your responsibility, your awakening. And it starts with this. The freedom you were promised, it's not real. But the freedom you can claim, that's more powerful than anything they can offer. Because once you see the illusion, you can never unsee it. And from that moment on, you begin to live not as a pawn, but as a person. So don't run from the discomfort. Don't numb the questions. Let them burn. Let them break you open. Because only what is true will remain. And that finally is freedom. Why do you stay in places that drain you? Why do you say yes when everything inside you screams no? Because comfort, not fear, is your master now. You don't wake up to chains. You wake up to convenience. Warm sheets. A steady paycheck. A curated feed of digital praise. Food delivered to your door. Entertainment always one tap away. And in this quiet luxury, your soul atrophies. People do not wish to be settled. They wish to be amused. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, you're okay. Don't rock the boat. Don't question. Don't seek. Just stay. So you stay. In jobs that numb you. In relationships that shrink you. In routines that rot your spirit. But here's the brutal truth. Comfort isn't peace. It's sedation. It keeps you from asking the hard questions, from facing the truth in the mirror, from doing the terrifying but necessary work of becoming who you really are. Because growth, real transformation, it's uncomfortable. It demands risk, loss, rejection. But we've built a culture that fears pain more than regret, that would rather be entertained than awakened, that trades truth for trends and settles for ease over essence. This is how modern slavery works. It doesn't use whips. It uses algorithms. It doesn't need guards. It uses your own fear of change. It doesn't break your body. It breaks your will. And it tells you, be grateful. Others have it worse. Yes, others do. But what does that have to do with your unlived life? You're not here just to function, to pay bills and die. You're not a cog. You're not your title. You are a living, breathing, chaotic force of consciousness. And you've forgotten. Because comfort has made you forget. Look around. People don't rebel. They binge. They don't reflect. They scroll. They don't feel. They consume. They don't ask, is this the life I want? They ask, what's the next distraction? And the system smiles. Because a pacified population is the easiest to control. But you're starting to wake up. You feel the tension, don't you? That low hum of dissatisfaction. The way joy feels just out of reach. The way your life, though fine on paper, feels flat in your chest. That's your inner self knocking, asking for something real, something wild, something that hurts and heals and matters. But first, you have to choose. Will you keep feeding the comfort beast, or will you risk the discomfort of becoming? Freedom is not found in what's easy. It's found in what's true. And the truth is, your comfort is costing you your life. So step into the fire. Shake the numbness from your bones. Say no to what deadens you, even if it scares you, especially if it scares you, because beyond comfort lies clarity. And beyond clarity, the self that you were always meant to be. Not safe, but free. Not perfect, but awake. That choice is yours, and it always has been. So what will you choose? The soft sleep of comfort, or the wild breath of freedom? Have you ever noticed how quiet moments suddenly get loud? Not from outside noise, but from within. The stillness you seek is the very thing you run from. Because when everything goes quiet, a voice speaks. And it asks questions you don't want to hear. Are you happy? Why are you really doing this? Who are you when no one is looking? This is the war inside you. The one that never stops. The one between the self you've created for the world and the self you hide even from yourself. You feel it when you smile through discomfort, when you perform success but feel like a fraud, when you tell yourself, I should be grateful, while your chest feels hollow. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the part of you deny, suppress, and exile. But it doesn't disappear. It waits, and it fights. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You blame bad luck, other people, circumstances, but often it's you battling yourself. One part wants freedom, another wants control. One part seeks growth, another clings to safety. One part knows the truth, another fears its consequences. And so you live torn. You pretend. You distract. You chase goals you don't care about to avoid feelings you can't face. But the body keeps score, the soul keeps watch, and the war rages on. It shows up as anxiety, as burnout, as chronic dissatisfaction. You think it's because of your job, your partner, your bank account, but those are just mirrors. The real battlefield is within, and the enemy isn't your weakness. It's your refusal to listen. There's a part of you that knows what you want, who you are, what you're capable of, but you've buried it under noise, under approval, under fear, and now it's breaking through. Not gently, not politely, but like a rebellion, because your soul doesn't want peace. It wants truth, and truth is disruptive. It challenges your beliefs. It dismantles your image. It exposes the ways you've betrayed yourself. But it also frees you. This war, this inner conflict, it isn't a curse. It's a call to integration, to wholeness, to finally stop splitting yourself into pieces to make others comfortable, to stop living for applause, to stop shrinking for safety. You were never meant to live divided. The you that wants to scream, and the you that wants to please, they can't both lead. One must step aside. So ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What have I silenced? What does the truest part of me want to say? You won't find the answer in books or on screens. You'll find it in the silence you've been avoiding. When you finally sit with yourself, not as you wish to be, but as you are, the war begins to end. Not with victory, but with surrender. Surrender to what is true, to what you feel, to what you know beneath the noise. It won't be clean, it won't be quick, but it will be real. And reality is where healing begins. So don't fear the war inside you. It means you're still fighting for yourself. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most courageous thing you can do. When you were a child, what were you taught? Sit still. Be quiet. Do as you're told. Obedience wasn't just expected, it was rewarded. A gold star for following the rules. A smile for not asking too many questions. Praise for staying inside the lines. And so, brick by brick, you built a prison of compliance. Not because you were weak, but because you were wise. You learned the unspoken truth. Obedience is safer than defiance. Welcome to the training ground. Family, school, religion, media. All rehearsals for a life where obedience is not just normal, but necessary. Not questioned, but celebrated. And then we wonder why we feel powerless. The greatest crimes in the world are not committed by people breaking the rules, but by people following the rules. It's people who follow orders that drop bombs and massacre villages. Banksy, you think you're free? You've been conditioned to wait for permission, to ask before you move, to seek approval before you speak. The default setting is submission. To systems, to authority, to narratives that don't serve you. And the cruelest part? You obey yourself out of your own life. You obey the job you hate because it pays. You obey the schedule that exhausts you because it's expected. You obey the norms that bore you because they're familiar. But deep down, something in you is restless. Something wild. Something ancient. A voice that says, this isn't it. That voice is disobedient. It's the part of you that doesn't want to fit in because it wasn't born to. But you smother it because you were taught that obedience equals love. Be the good son. Be the polite daughter. Be the quiet citizen. Be the agreeable friend. Don't make waves. Don't question. Don't say the thing everyone's thinking. Obedience has become your second skin. And every time you say, that's just the way it is, you reinforce the chains. Here's the brutal truth. Most people aren't free because they've confused obedience with morality. They think to challenge is to sin. They think to question is to betray. But the opposite is true. Disobedience is where all change begins. Civil rights didn't begin with compliance. Revolutions didn't begin with silence. Art didn't begin with consensus. They began with refusal. With someone saying, I won't. I can't. I don't believe you. And yet, here you are, obeying, without noticing. How many times have you laughed at a joke you hated? Said yes when you meant no? Stayed quiet to keep the peace? That's not harmony. That's self-erasure. You think you're polite, but you're disappearing. You think you're adaptable, but you're vanishing. Obedience isn't neutral. It's corrosive when it replaces discernment. You weren't made to follow blindly. You were made to see clearly. But clarity comes at a cost. You will lose people. You will lose comfort. You will lose the illusion of certainty. But what you gain is yourself. So ask yourself, what have I obeyed that I no longer believe in? Whose approval am I still chasing? What truths am I afraid to say aloud? There's a version of you on the other side of obedience. Not chaotic, Not rebellious for the sake of rebellion, but sovereign. The you that doesn't need a script. The you that doesn't wait to be chosen. The you that leads from within. You can still be kind and clear. You can still be loving and loud. You can still be respectful and revolutionary. But you can't be free and obedient at the same time. Not if that obedience costs you your truth. So it's time to unlearn what you were taught, to challenge what you assumed, to say no to the lies that keep you small. Because obedience may be the default, but it was never your destiny. Freedom doesn't come from being good. It comes from being real. And real begins when obedience ends. What if you got everything you wanted? No more schedules you didn't choose. No more approval you had to earn. No more roles to play. What if the weight was lifted, and the voice in your head, the one that says you need to be more, do more, prove more, fell silent? Would you be free? Or would you panic? Because here's a truth too few dare to face. Freedom is terrifying, not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. You were raised in captivity. We all were. Taught what to value. Taught what to fear. Taught that freedom is risky, irresponsible, dangerous. That freedom leads to chaos. That freedom makes you selfish. That freedom makes you alone. But it isn't freedom you're afraid of. It's the responsibility that comes with it. No one left to blame. No script to follow. No map to lean on. Just you. Your choices. Your voice. You say you want to be free. But how many cages do you still defend? Your job? Your status? Your identity that's rooted in how others see you? You say you want truth. But do you? Because truth requires letting go. Of comfort. Of control. Of certainty. Freedom demands you look in the mirror and say, no one's coming to rescue me. And no one has to. It demands you stop asking for permission to live. It demands you risk being misunderstood. As Nietzsche wrote, freedom is the will to be responsible for ourselves. And responsibility, real, unfiltered, spiritual responsibility, is not glamorous. It's raw. It's brutal. It's holy. It asks everything of you. Because when you're truly free, you can no longer hide behind excuses. You can't say, they made me. You can't say, I had to. You can only say, I chose. And that terrifies people. That terrifies systems. Because a person who chooses, truly chooses, cannot be controlled. And if you cannot be controlled, you cannot be used. Which is why your freedom is the greatest threat of all. Not just to others, but to the version of yourself who was taught to obey. So you cling to the familiar. The job you don't love. The relationship that drains you. The story where you are a victim. Because it's easier than rewriting everything. But the old story is over. And the new one? It begins the moment you stop asking what you're allowed to do and start asking what you're called to do. You think freedom is being able to do whatever you want. But real freedom is doing what you must, what your soul demands, what your silence has been screaming. It's not comfort. It's not pleasure. It's not endless options. It's clarity. It's responsibility. It's presence. It's saying, I will live by my own fire, even if I burn. So ask yourself, what am I still afraid to lose? What lie do I still tell myself to stay safe? Because somewhere in your mind, you already know. Freedom isn't out there. It's not waiting. It's not conditional. It's here. It's now. It's yours, if you're willing to bear it. And make no mistake, freedom has weight. It will demand you let go of the labels that gave you comfort. It will demand you become intimate with your own desires. It will demand you live in alignment, not agreement. And that's terrifying, because once you are free, you cannot pretend again. You cannot pretend not to know. You cannot pretend not to feel. You cannot pretend that your life belongs to anyone else. But isn't that the point? To stop pretending? To stop waiting? To step outside the lines and finally say, this life is mine. I will live it awake. Freedom doesn't arrive like a gift. It arrives like a test of your courage, of your honesty, of your willingness to live without guarantees. Most will choose the cage, because the cage is warm. The cage is known. The cage doesn't ask too much. But you, if you are reading this, you've already begun to see the bars. And now you must decide, will you stay where it's safe, or walk into the fire where you are real? The fire will not kill you. The fear will. So don't worship the illusion of freedom. Live it. Bleed for it. Risk for it. Because when you do, the world changes. Not all at once, but one disobedient, courageous, terrified step at a time. And those steps, they are how freedom begins.